remember every aspect of their delivery. They remember the smells of their child. Press this thing.
Top PC. You can press the top right button. There you go.
Most people remember every aspect of the delivery of their child. They remember the smell of the hair. They remember the pains of the contractions, the times that they went to labor, and even the touch of their family members while they were in the delivery room. Now, imagine that your ID bracelet is replaced with handcuffs, your husband is replaced with a security guard, and you are now shackled to the bed. Unfortunately, that is the very case for a lot of the American women. Good morning, my name is Jillian, and my purpose here is to give you a better understanding about pregnant women in prison. I'll talk about the treatment that pregnant women receive, the precautions used during delivery, and what happens to the babies after they are born. The first thing I'll talk about is the treatment pregnant women receive in prison. South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley passed a law in 2013 requiring all pregnant women to be placed in protective custody, or PCU, due to their increased vulnerability and their advanced medical issues. This law was put into action after numerous numbers of pregnant inmates were assaulted by other inmates. The other inmates felt like they were being targeted because they said that they felt like they were being treated better by the medical staff and were given extra privileges. But Robert Tobert, former chief psychiatrist with the Maryland Department of Corrections, refuted that statement and stated that pregnant women in prisons are very prone to postpartum depression and have an increased case of postpartum psychosis due to their limited medical attention and mental health treatment. In fact, sometimes the treatment of incarcerated pregnant women is appalling. Although it's recommended that incarcerated pregnant women are able to seek medical daily for their pregnancy, a lot of times they're only able to go to the medical visits once a month. They're not allowed to have private doctors, which limits the amount of medical attention that they receive due to budgetary issues, and extra medical treatment, such as ultrasounds, are not able to be done. So a lot of the cases, the people don't even know like the sex of their baby until the day that they are born. These women are able to receive prenatal vitamins, but due to security risk of selling or snorting the drugs, they're only able to receive these medications during allotted times and under close supervision by the security guards. They even have less privacy than most of the other inmates. All medical visits are closely monitored by security guards. So imagine having a room full of like security guards watching you while your legs are popped up in stirrups and you're trying to give a urine sample. It's just very uncomfortable. So whatever little bit of privacy the traditional inmates have, pregnant women have even less. So we just discussed the treatment of pregnant women while in prison. So now let's explore the precautions that are used during the delivery process. Although the delivery room is generally filled with a lot of people and it's very joyous for most people, the time itself for pregnant incarcerated inmates can be very lonely. Close family and friends are not allowed in the delivery room. Inmates and their families are even rarely informed that the child is being born because they don't want to promote like the plan of escape. So a lot of times their family members don't even know that the child is born until after the inmate returns to the home, even if they have a planned C-section. Bernard Mackey, warden at the South Carolina Women's Correctional Institute, encourages these restrictions and believed that they were in place to prevent pregnant women from getting outside to help plan an escape. Due to this mentality, he initiated a policy that the only individuals allowed in the delivery room were the guards and medical personnel. All the medical personnel are closely scrutinized and they have to be checked before they go ahead and walk in. So it was kind of very important because it's like when they would come in, they would have to get stopped, and then that's time that is being taken from trying to actually deliver the baby. The prisoners were to be handcuffed to the bed at all times, and the legs were to be shackled. So in this picture here, it's an example of how the typical inmate used to go ahead and give birth. So you can see here her legs are being shackled, and traditionally they would have one handcuff to the bed to prevent trying to escape. She was not permitted to leave the bed under any circumstances, and families are also kept in the dark regarding birth details. Like I said, with most families not even knowing that the child was born until after the inmate returned to prison. In the event that a pregnant female was to die during the delivery, they were to be kept handcuffed and shackled by the feet until after they were buried. There was a case in South Carolina in which an inmate faked their death and then once they tried to escape. So now they implemented that they have to be shackled and handcuffed until they are actually buried. Now, 2 guards were required in the room at one time, standing outside the door. Now, that all changed in 2007 when the U.S. Marshal Service prohibited the use of shackling of pregnant women into their 3rd trimester. They considered it inhumane and unconstitutional. So you've learned some of the precautions that were used during the delivery process. So now let's talk about what happens to the baby after they're born. There's no national policy that depicts what happens to the child once they're born. It's basically up to the discretion of the state, how they choose to proceed. But more than 2,000 children are born in the United States behind prison. That was up until 1950. Prison nurseries were common in most states, and the mom used to be able to leave the babies in the prison cells with them. They would go ahead and incorporate nurseries and other programs for them. Only a few states now allow the babies to stay with their mothers behind bars, but that's only if the mother is serving like a short sentence or up until the child reaches a certain age. Bedford Hills Correctional Facility for women in Bedford Hills, New York, is one of the handful of women's prisons that allows the child to stay actually up until they're 4 years old. In Durham, North Carolina, inmates can have their child living with them, and they go ahead and they make makeshift daycare centers in their cells with them, but they have to have checked, it has to be monitored, and they have to get random cell searches. So this is just a makeshift daycare center that the girl has in her cell, in which she'll be able to have her baby stay with her. Some states actually allow the mothers to leave in the daytime to go ahead and see their child. Like when their children become older, they're able to leave the prisons, take care of their child throughout the day, let them go off for school, prepare meals and stuff for them, and then when they return at nighttime, put them to bed, and then they have to return back to the prison. And that's to try to keep a sense of normalcy for the child. So throughout the daytime, the mother, some states allow the mothers to kind of furlough out throughout the day and return at night. Only 10 states have nursery programs that allow mothers to stay with the babies beyond 3 days after birth. Florida initially allowed incarcerated women to take care of their children, but that was until the internal investigation at Lau Correctional Institute, located in Marion County, Florida. They discovered a large narcotic ring, and they were using the baby's diapers and baby foods in order to smuggle narcotics in and out of the prison, so that stopped. Today we discussed the treatment of pregnant women in prison that they receive, such as the frequency of medical visits and the protected status that they receive. We've explored the precautions that are used during the delivery process, such as keeping delivery dates secret and an added security that is given during the delivery. And then lastly, we talked about what happens to the baby after they're born. Like some states allow the baby to stay with their mothers up until a certain amount of time, and others mandate that the child be placed up for foster care. Now you have a better understanding of pregnant women in prison. So if you want to know more about pregnant women in prison or what becomes of the child after they are born, please discuss this with me after class. Thank you.